It almost wasn't Tom and Jerry.
Oh.
Yeah, can you imagine one of animation's most famous rivalries playing out between a cat named Jasper and a mouse called Jinx?
Jasper and Jinx. Wow, that feels completely different.
Pretty wild, right?
It really does. What's fascinating about that near miss is how much a simple name can shape, our whole perception of characters and their dynamic.
Definitely.
It makes you wonder about all the other creative choices, the big ones, the small ones that led to the icons we know.
Absolutely. Welcome to Seeking History. Today we're diving into the intertwined lives and careers of William Hanna and Joseph Barbera.
The giants.
Exactly. Minds behind just a staggering number of animated classics. And we're going way beyond just the cartoons themselves today.
Yeah.
We want to explore the historical backdrop, the societal shifts they navigated.
Yeah, the business side, too. Their business acumen was pretty impressive.
Right, and the lasting sociological impact of everything they created.
Exactly. Hanna and Barbera weren't just, drawing funny animals. They were building a whole company, shaping the landscape of American entertainment, really.
Mm-hmm.
Their story, it's like a lens, isn't it? We can look through it to see how animation evolved, both as an art form and, crucially, as a business.
So where do we start? The beginning, I suppose. William Hanna.
Let's! William Hanna, born 1910, Melrose, New Mexico.
And his early life, it sounds like he moved around quite a bit. His father's work, construction.
That's right. Water and sewer systems all across the western U.S. So the family was in Baker City, Oregon, Logan, Utah, San Pedro, Watts in California. Lots of moving.
That constant change. You have to think it fosters adaptability.
Oh, well, certainly. Maybe that helped later when they had to pivot so quickly into television.
Good point. What else stands out about those early years for Hanna?
Well, you mentioned Oregon. Apparently, he really developed a love for the outdoors there. Mm-hmm. And he was the only boy, 6 sisters, close family.
Wow, only boy. That must shape you.
You'd think so. His mother was described as a strict religious homemaker, father, a hardworking superintendent, and maybe a hint of his later drive. He was really involved in the Boy Scouts.
Oh, yeah?
Became an Eagle Scout, stayed active his whole life. He said his Distinguished Eagle Scout Award was one of the things he was most proud of.
That tells you something, doesn't it? Commitment, hard work, recognition.
Yeah, it lays a foundation, even if it seems unrelated to, cartooning at the time.
And he had other interests, too, not just scouting.
Oh, loads. Sailing, singing barbershop quartet, apparently.
Are you kidding?
Journalism, he was interested in that. Structural engineering, too. And music, played the saxophone in a dance band in high school.
Quite the Renaissance man. So engineering, did he pursue that?
He started at Compton City College, aiming for journalism and structural engineering, but then the Great Depression hit. Yeah, economic reality forced him to drop out. A common story for that generation.
It really was. The Depression just changed everything for so many people. Okay, so that's Hanna's start. Now, Joseph Barbera, born just a year later, 1911, but a very different setting.
Completely different. New York City, Little Italy, initially. He was one of 9 kids. Sicilian family, later moved to Flatbush, Brooklyn.
9 kids. Wow.
Big family. His father was a barber, owned 3 successful shops, but, well, he wasn't always around, had a gambling problem, apparently.
Wait a thought.
So his mother and grandmother were really central figures, raising the kids in a, traditional Italian-speaking household.
That contrast is striking, isn't it? Hanna's sort of Western, moving around childhood, and Barbera's very rooted urban immigrant experience.
Definitely. Different perspectives, different cultural inputs that probably fed into their creativity later in subtle ways.
And Barbera's early interest, was he artistic from the start?
Interestingly, yeah. He was supposedly the only one in that big family who could draw. He went to Holy Innocents School for a bit, then public school, PS 139. Excelled in sports there, actually. High jump.
High jump.
Okay. But the drawing thing came back in high school, inspired by a classmate who was really good.
It's funny how one person can just spark that, isn't it?
It really is. So, like Hanna, Barbera had this early connection to art, even if it wasn't the obvious career path yet. And like Hanna, music was there too.
And they both saw those early animations.
Yeah, silent films. Hanna liked Felix the Cat. Barbera, he was really blown away by Disney's skeleton dance.
Oh, skeleton dance. That must have been something else back then. So innovative.
Absolutely. That synchronization of music and movement. You can see how that would capture a young artist's imagination.
Okay, so they both have these early influences, these sparks. How did they actually get into the animation business? It wasn't straightforward for either of them, especially with the Depression.
Not at all. For Hanna, after college fell through, he did a bit of construction engineering work, actually helped build the Pantages Theater.
Really? The Pantages.
Yep. Then that job ended, and he was working at a car wash.
Wow, quite a shift.
Definitely. But then one of his sister's boyfriends gave him a tip, apply, at a place called Pacific Title and Art. They did movie title cards.
Oh, okay.
His talent must have been obvious because pretty quickly, in 1930, he lands a job at the Harman and Ising Animation Studio.
The Looney Tunes guys.
The very same originally. And this is key. Hanna had no formal animation training at all. He just jumped in.
That's amazing. And he rose quickly there.
Very quickly. Became head of the ink and paint department. But he wasn't just technical, remember. He was writing songs and lyrics, too, showing that creative breadth.
Right, the music background coming through.
Exactly. And when Harman and Ising moved over to MGM in 1933, Hanna went with them. He even got to direct his first cartoon there, To Spring, in 1936.
So he's directing pretty early on.
He is, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. He was a senior director on a series called Captain and the Kids for MGM. It didn't do well.
Ouch.
Yeah, and he got demoted. Back to being a story man.
Those ups and downs, though. Experiencing directing, then story work. Probably gave him a really solid understanding of the whole process.
I think you're right. A valuable, if maybe painful, experience. Now, Barbera's Path.
Right, Barbera. He finished high school early, but the job market was terrible.
Awful. Early 30s. He worked briefly as a bank racker, basically organizing checks.
Okay.
But he kept drawing. Started submitting single-panel cartoons to magazines like Collier's, Red Book.
Yeah.
Got rejection after rejection for 2 years.
2 years. That's persistence.
It really is. Finally sold one to Collier's. Huge moment for him.
I bet.
And remember Skeleton Dance? He was so inspired, he actually tried to get advice from Walt Disney. Wrote him a letter, maybe called. Never heard back.
Oh, wow. Imagine if Disney had called back.
History might be very different. But Barbera didn't give up. He took night classes, Art Students League, Pratt Institute honing his skills. Then the bank laid him off in 32. Economy getting worse. He worked very briefly at Fleischer Studios, the Popeye guys. Then, later in 32, he landed at Van Buren Studios as an in-betweener.
An in-betweener, that's drawing the frames between the main poses, right? Creates the movement.
Exactly. Crucial job, often overlooked. And Barbera moved up fast at Van Buren, became an animator, then a storyboard artist, worked on Cubby Bear rainbow parades.
So he's getting solid studio experience.
Definitely. He did a short stint at Terry Toons in 36, but apparently felt creatively unfulfilled there. So in 1937, he makes the big move, heads to California, destination, MGM's new cartoon studio.
And that's where they finally connect. 1937, MGM. Hanna's already there with directing experience, even though he'd been demoted. Barbera arrives as an animator and storyman.
Right. And initially, they were still in separate units, worked on that same unsuccessful Captain and the Kids series where Barbera felt his ideas weren't really getting used.
But then, studio logistics, maybe fate, they both end up in the story department together, under Harman and Ising again. And their desks
were opposite each other. Simple as that sometimes.
That proximity, that was the spark, wasn't it?
It seems so. Hanna had this incredible sense of timing, story structure. Barbera was just lightning fast with gags, with drawing. They realized they complemented each other perfectly. They just clicked.
They developed a really close working relationship.
And their first official collaboration, the one that really showed what they could do together, was Puss Gets the Boot in 1940, introducing
Jasper the Cat and Jinx the Mouse.
Prototypes. And it was a hit. Kind of a surprise hit, but a hit nonetheless.
That success must have changed everything for them at MGM.
It absolutely did. It proved their partnership worked, and it paved the way for Tom and Jerry. They directed over 114 Tom and Jerry shorts over the next 17 years.
Starting with The Midnight Snack in 41. And they really refined those characters, that whole dynamic, the conflict, the chase, the cartoon violence.
That timeless formula, and it worked spectacularly well. Those shorts were massively popular, critically acclaimed too. They won 7 Academy Awards for Best Animated Short Film.
7 Oscars. Between 1943 and 1954. That's incredible. A record for a single series, right?
Still is, I believe. It just shows the consistent quality and the sheer audience love for what they were doing. That visual humor, it just crossed all barriers.
But there was a catch with those Oscars, wasn't there?
Yeah, the producer, Fred Quimby, was the one who actually accepted the awards and got the official credit.
Oof. Hanna-Barbera must have been frustrated.
Understandably so. Doing all that creative heavy lifting and seeing someone else get the statue.
Yeah.
You can see how that might plant a seed for wanting more control down the line.
Definitely a recurring theme for creators.
Yeah.
And their work wasn't just the main shorts, right? They did other things during the MGM years.
Oh, yeah. During World War II, they contributed to the war effort with instructional shorts, things like War Dogs in 1941, which, reflected the sentiments of the time. And Tom and Jerry themselves evolved visually. Tom got a bit more streamlined, maybe less overtly mean-looking over time. Jerry didn't change quite as much physically, but his emotional range definitely expanded.
And they even stepped out of the cartoon world sometimes.
Right. Jerry dancing with Gene Kelly in Anchors Away, 1945. That was groundbreaking stuff, mixing live action and animation so seamlessly.
An iconic movie moment.
Totally. And both Tom and Jerry swam with Esther Williams in Dangerous One Wet in 1953.
They were really pushing the technical boundaries while also making these characters cultural staples.
Exactly. They introduced other great characters too, like Nibbles or Tuffy, depending on the little mouse in the diaper in the Milky Way.
Always hungry. Added a fun dynamic.
Definitely. Though it wasn't all smooth sailing creatively, there was a bit of controversy around their Oscar win for the Cat Concerto in 47.
Oh.
Accusations of plagiarism, basically. Friz Freleng over at Warner Bros. Felt it was too similar to one of his Bugs Bunny cartoons using the same classical music piece. These things happen, I guess, in creative fields.
Lines can get blurry with inspiration.
They also did more complex animation work, like for Gene Kelly's ambitious film Invitation to Dance. That was released in 56, technically very demanding.
And Barbera even tried writing a play.
He did, co-wrote one called The Maid and the Martian, had a short run. Shows he had ambitions beyond just animation, that broader storytelling drive.
Interesting. So they're having all the success, winning Oscars, innovating, and then Quimby retires.
Quimby retired in 54, and Hanna and Barbera finally got the top job. They were made heads of the MGM cartoon department, producers, directors, the whole thing.
Finally getting that recognition and control.
Yes. But maybe at the wrong time. They tried to cut costs, make things more efficient, but the theatrical cartoon market, it was declining. Television was looming.
So despite their efforts.
Despite their efforts, MGM decided the cartoon division wasn't profitable enough anymore. They shut it down in 1957.
Wow. After all those years, all those hits, just closed.
Oh, yeah, a huge blow. End of an era at MGM. But for Hanna-Barbera, it turned out to be, well, a new beginning, a really big one.
Facing that closure must have been incredibly daunting. But they didn't just give up.
Not at all. They saw an opportunity, really. In 1957, they scraped together $30,000, not a huge amount even then, and partnered with George Sidney, who had been a director at MGM.
Right.
And they formed their own company, HB Enterprises, which we now know as Hanna-Barbera Productions.
And their goal was television, right? Which was kind of a gamble back then for original animation.
A huge gamble. Most TV animation was reruns of old theatrical stuff, or really low-budget, limited animation, creating original content specifically for TV. Pretty risky.
But they had an idea how to make it work economically.
They did. They developed this technique, this process they called planned animation, sometimes called limited animation.
Planned animation. What did that actually involve?
Well, fundamentally, it meant using fewer drawings per second of film. Way fewer than the full animation they were used to at MGM.
So less fluid movement.
Less fluid movement, definitely. More reliance on held poses, on cycles like walk cycles repeated. And crucially, a much bigger emphasis on dialogue, sound effects, and importantly, character vocalizations to carry the story and the humor.
So the voices became even more important.
Absolutely critical. It allowed them to produce cartoons much faster and cheaper, which was essential for the demands and budgets of television production.
It became the signature style for generations of TV cartoons, didn't it? For better or worse, some might say.
For better or worse, yeah. It was a trade-off, but it made TV animation viable on a large scale. Their first show using this was the Rough and Ready show in 1957 for NBC.
Ruff the Cat and Reddy the Dog. They were friends, interestingly, not rivals.
Right. A decent start, but their real breakthrough on TV came the next year, 1958, with the Huckleberry Hound show.
Oh, yeah. Huckleberry Hound and Yogi Bear debuted on that show, right?
Yeah.
And Pixie and Dixie?
That's the one. It was huge. Syndicated, incredibly popular. The writing was sharp, witty dialogue. It appealed to kids, sure, but adults watched it too.
And Yogi Bear just took off. became a superstar.
Absolutely. Yogi was the breakout character. His popularity was massive. Huckleberry Hound really proved their model could work, that quality writing and strong characters could shine even with limited animation.
And they followed that up quickly.
Very quickly. The Quick Draw McGraw Show came next, in '59. A funny take on Westerns, with Quick Draw, Baba Louie, Snooper, and Blabber.
Doggy Doggy and Doggy Daddy. Great characters.
Just instantly memorable characters. Hanna-Barbera cartoons were becoming appointment television. People loved them. There were even stories about viewer protests if a show got preempted for some reason.
Wow. And they were smart about the business side, too, beyond just making the shows.
Oh, very smart. Licensing became huge for them, putting those characters on lunchboxes, toys, comic books. That generated a ton of revenue and built the brand even further.
They also did a theatrical cartoon around this time, Loopy de Loop.
Yeah, 1959. Loopy de Loop, a wolf, but a nice wolf, trying to change the perception of wolves. Ran in theaters for a few years. Didn't quite hit like the TV stuff, though.
And you mentioned the importance of voices.
Crucial. Guys like Don Messick and Dawes Butler, they were the backbone. They voiced dozens of characters, often multiple characters within the same show. Incredibly talented voice artists. Their contribution can't be overstated.
Okay, so they've conquered Saturday mornings, syndication, but then they aimed even higher.
Primetime, that was the next frontier. They got the call basically to develop a half-hour animated sitcom for adults, or at least for a family audience, in primetime.
Which led to The Flintstones.
The Flintstones, 1960. It wasn't an easy sell, apparently. They faced some rejections. But ABC eventually took a chance.
And it was revolutionary, wasn't it? An animated show, like a sitcom, but set in the Stone Age. A parody of shows like The Honeymooners.
Totally revolutionary. It proved animation wasn't just for kids on Saturday mornings. It could work in primetime, compete with live-action sitcoms, and it was a massive, massive hit.
Fred and Wilma Flintstone, Barney and Betty Rubble, household name.
It's instantly iconic. And the voices again, Alan Reed as Fred, the legendary Mel Blanc as Barney.
Mel Blanc, wow.
And that catchphrase, yabba dabba doo, apparently Alan Reed just kind of ad-libbed it or something close to it during a recording session.
No way, it just stuck.
It just stuck, became part of the cultural lexicon. They kept using their planned animation techniques, obviously, to make the production feasible for a weekly primetime show.
And Yogi Bear got his own show too, right? Spun off from Huckleberry Hound.
Yep. The Yogi Bear show started in 1961. He was just too popular not to have his own headlining gig. That show also introduced Yacky Doodle, the little duck.
Always getting chased by Fibber Fox or Alfie Gator.
Right. Hanna-Barbera was just on a roll. Top Cat followed in '61, another primetime attempt. Their studio had to expand. They moved into a new, bigger building in 1962. They were booming.
They even went into feature films.
Their first animated feature, yeah. Hey there, it's Yogi Bear in 1964.
And they tried something different that same year, animation-wise.
They did. The Adventures of Johnny Quest. Much more realistic style, adventure, espionage themes, really different from their usual output. Looked amazing.
Johnny Quest was cool, more serious.
It was. Critically acclaimed. Many remember it fondly, but it was expensive to produce in that style, and it only lasted one season. Canceled.
Shame. But they kept experimenting.
Yeah, they weren't afraid to try things. They did a live-action animated TV special in '67, Jack and the Beanstalk, starring Gene Kelly again.
Back with Gene Kelly.
And then, in 1969, came maybe their biggest, most enduring creation for Saturday morning.
Let me guess. Meddling Kids and a Dog.
You got it. Scooby-Doo or our...
Ruro. An absolute phenomenon. That show, those characters, they're still going strong today in various forms.
Incredible longevity. Scooby-Doo really cemented their dominance of Saturday morning TV for the 1970s. They just kept producing show after show, facing more competition now, but still the leaders.
Did they branch out beyond animation again in the 70s?
They did. They produced some live-action TV, like the sitcom Wait Till Your Father Gets Home in '72, and some live-action films. Made an animated feature of a classic book, Charlotte's Web, in '73.
Oh, I remember that. E.B. White.
Yeah. And for sports fans, they created Peter Puck in '73, the animated mascot for NBC's hockey games.
Peter Puck. Explaining icing.
That's the one. They even tried bringing Tom and Jerry back to TV in '75, but... well, the violence was toned way down for Saturday morning standards. It wasn't quite the same.
Understandable, but yeah. Different feel. They were getting recognition for all this work, though.
Oh, definitely. Got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1976. Received the Winsor McKay Award, that's a huge lifetime achievement honor in animation, in 1977. They even started a training program for young animators.
Giving back. But there was still that criticism about the animation style, the limited animation.
Yeah, that criticism never fully went away. As TV animation proliferated, some critics and animation purists felt the quality suffered compared to the old theatrical shorts, that the limited style was holding the medium back artistically. It's a fair debate.
So, moving into the 80s, did their dominance continue?
They had some huge hits again. The Smurfs in 1981 was massive for them on NBC.
Yeah, the Smurfs were everywhere.
Top-rated Saturday morning show for years. And interestingly, it sometimes tackled more serious themes like environmentalism or conflict woven into the stories.
That's interesting for a kid's cartoon back then.
It was. They tried another big-screen movie, an animated musical called Heidi's Song in 1982. Unfortunately, it didn't do well at the box office.
Another swing and a miss on the feature film front.
Seems like TV was really their sweet spot. They kept churning out Saturday morning and syndicated shows all through the 80s. Still a powerhouse. And they got another major award in 1988, the Governor's Award from the TV Academy for Lifetime Achievement.
Well-deserved. Did they ever return to their original stars? Tom and Jerry.
They did. In the 90s, they launched Tom and Jerry Kids, featuring younger versions of the characters, and they finally made a full-length Tom and Jerry feature film in 1992.
Tom and Jerry, the movie where they talked.
Yes. Controversial move for some fans, having them speak extensively. They also did a lot of made-for-TV animated movies in the 90s, often featuring their classic characters.
Like the Flintstones meeting the Jetsons. Things like that.
Exactly, those kinds of specials. And they saw their creations hit the big screen in live action, too, with the Flintstones movie in 1994.
Which was huge.
It was a big hit, and they stayed involved with new Scooby-Doo projects right through. Sadly, William Hanna passed away in 2001.
The end of an era.
Truly. Joseph Barbera continued working for a few more years, but he passed away in 2006. Their very last Tom and Jerry cartoon that they worked on together, The Mansion Cat, actually came out posthumously for Hanna in 2001.
Wow. Working together right up until the end, nearly.
An incredible partnership that lasted decades.
So, when we step back and look at this whole incredible story, Hanna and Barbera, it really is more than just cartoons, isn't it?
Oh, much more. It's a story about American ingenuity, adapting to change, like the shift from movies to TV. It's about the evolution of entertainment itself.
And the power of partnership, that creative collaboration lasting for so long, shaping so much.
Absolutely. Their journey, navigating the Depression, then basically inventing the business model for television animation. It gives us so many insights into the business of creativity, the media landscape, and just why certain characters and stories stick with us for generations.
It makes you think about your own childhood, right? The shows you grew up watching. For so many of us, Hanna-Barbera was just there. Saturday mornings wouldn't have been the same.
They defined it for millions. Their impact goes way beyond just nostalgia, though. They fundamentally changed animation as an industry.
It really makes you wonder what other partnerships, maybe less famous, have had that kind of quiet, profound impact on the culture we consume. What other forces shape things in unexpected ways?
That's a great question to think about. The hidden collaborations, the unexpected synergies that create something lasting. It's been fascinating to explore the Hanna-Barbera story today.
It really has. Thanks for taking this deep dive into history with us.